Morning Uganda Extra.
Well, the 13th of June will be the International Albinism Awareness Day. That means Uganda will be joining the rest of the world to celebrate persons with albinism, and also to put an end to the level of stereotyping and segregation that continues to grow within some of the people in our society today. In a conversation that looks at the day itself, and then also looking at building a simple route of awareness, especially for people who associate with persons with albinism, or also those who are related to those persons, and how we can help them outgrow the kind of insecurities and also be part of a society that is free for all, and a society where everyone feels comfortable to be who they are for the world that is. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Uganda Extra. I'm Joram Paul Sonko, and my guest this morning is Namtebi Olive. Now, Namtebi Olive serves as the Executive Director of Albinism Umbrella. She does join us this morning to have this conversation and more. And also, we try as much to understand what albinism is. And this is a full hour of that conversation. So sit back and be part of this conversation. A very good morning, Olive, and thank you for joining us. Good morning,
Jerome. Good morning, our viewers. I'm glad to be here today.
Well, the pleasure is ours having you this morning. I would wish to understand the concept of albinism, especially for the viewer out there. We only see and we have our own misconceptions and myths around those with albinism. But what is behind it, and how do we end up having a person with albinism?
Thank you very much. A person with albinism, I can say the genesis of it is very biological. It is inherited from both parents. My mother and my father had the recessive gene that brings albinism. Okay? So both parents must carry that gene, and it is a 25% chance for two people who are carriers of the gene to have a child with albinism. There are situations where homes are blessed with more, I call it blessed, with more children with albinism. Science hasn't found a solution to that. But according to the available statistics, we have 25% chance. I definitely carry the albinism gene. My child will have that albinism gene. In case he or she meets a partner who is a carrier, they have a 25% chance to have albinism. It is very genetic. There is nothing myths or misconceptions about it. It's not infidelity that somebody had a child with albinism. It is a blood issue. But a recessive gene, for the scientists who know dominant gene and recessive, it is a recessive gene.
Okay. And, you know, over the years, when you look at how persons with albinism have been treated in society, I would wish to start a conversation from there in regards to how society perceives the persons, in regards to, one, access to social services, how they are treated in the social life. You know, when you look at that journey, how far have we come as a country?
I want to refer to a report that was done by UN Human Rights before it left the country. It left in 2023, just last year. It was a situation analysis of persons with albinism in Uganda. And that report really detailed amazing facts. You know, one of the things that came through in that report was we have 52 tribes in this country. Every tribe has a myth about albinism.
A different one.
A different myth about albinism. So, and then there is a society misconception about the whole condition. back in the days, perhaps even today, but of course technology has gone up, and what we don't know you can verify, research. But I think our forefathers would try to explain what they didn't know with whatever made sense to them. So I remember myself on a journey in 2018. I went to Manafa, and again we're doing a spatial mapping. So we tried to know where people with albinism, who are they, what are their conditions, to hear from them. Yes, I have albinism, but I don't know it all. So as Albinism Umbrella, we carried out a research. And on that journey, we were amazed. We have an elder in Manafa, and I really thank him for that. You know, we were just inquisitive to know, what do you know? And one of the things that came out, Eastern Uganda has a higher number of people with albinism per family, which is not the rest of the country. That, I don't know, we haven't gone to that deep, but I know there is maybe a lot of intermarriages, and because we know it's genetic, perhaps then that's why.
And then someone gets married or marries someone carrying the gene.
Exactly, and then it comes. But one of the things that was debunked, the myth of people with albinism don't die. You know, there is that misconception of you have magical powers, you're not fully human, and he explained it quite well. He said in the days when a child with albinism was born, one, you would be a social outcast. You know, the family would be isolated, so they would hide this child, you know? And in the event that they would, one, they would not go to school, they would not engage in social activities. And even when they would be sick, they would do everything possible within their means to administer whatever medicine they could. God forbid, in case they passed on, what used to happen back then, they would carry that body on the river. I don't think it's called River Manafa, but there was a river or a stream of, and dump the body therein in the night. So for Jaron who is coming and maybe knows Olive lived there, be like, oh yeah, she disappeared. And
the body was disposed of.
Would go on and on and on. So what we also discovered is even people with albinism themselves or ourselves did not know, why am I different? You know, quite often when a child is born, the father is quick to say, that's not my child.
That's not my child.
But a mother, you know, people have seen your tummy bulging and they're expecting, you know, a child. So the mother will always bear the burden and say, okay. And many times they would chase them from their marriage. You were not faithful to your husband, you must have been with a white man, or you misbehaved, or the gods are not happy with you. One of the interesting myths that we have in northern Uganda is when a lady has a child with albinism, you went to the well at 1 p.m., like in the heat of the day, and maybe there was a ghost. So there are so many myths around this condition. But as we progress in this awareness, we begin to see the origin of some of these, and then to explain and elders like that, you know, and they're like, yeah, we know this one. But you know, at times most wrong information flies faster than the truth.
Yes. And you know, let's also look at some of the health, you know, challenges that persons with albinism, you know, face. I want us to first of all look at the, you know, each health implication and how or what measures have been put in place to ensure that, well, they are not affected in their life, their lifetime. And then maybe if someone is having a child or a relative who has the same, who is of a special case in that way, should be dealing with such a problem.
Thank you so much. Persons with albinism generally, and by the way, I want also to emphasize that albinism manifests in different ways.
Okay.
Yes, because for me, I don't have color in the skin, the hair, and the eyes. Really, that's a characteristic, the geno, and that is called the ocular albinism.
Okay.
Yes, there is OCA1 and then 2. The people who have albinism just in the eyes, you know.
Where there is no color in the eyes.
Where there is no eye, no color, and then there is that involuntary movement of the eye. So when we are born, because that melanin that gives you the dark color is lacking in me, there are some deficiencies that I have. So my skin is very susceptible to sunburns, you know, We're in Africa, the sun is here, and it's
And even
really
temperatures
hot.
now,
You know, temperatures
really
are
hot.
high. I always tell my people that we are not friends with the sun. We like it to dry our clothes and all our cereals and all this.
But the skin isn't.
But the skin is not a friend. So, viewer, you have a child, you have a relative, and I know many of us are quite poor. And I remember I was in Butaleji and I saw this lady midday, 2 p.m. and she's digging. Very good. You can't see it because we're not special. We have to do every other thing, but then you need to know the limitations.
Okay.
So when our skins burn, with the skin turns reddish, it's like we are holding on all this heat that has come in, and then afterwards it is given out. When this goes on for a long time, we get skin cancer. Very bad, yet very preventable. I'm getting disturbed and I'm so interested in research, the universities out there. Earlier on in this journey, we used to think that, you know, by the time you're 18, you've been exposed enough and perhaps then you can get the cancers. Today I have 10-year-olds who have cancer and I'm like, okay, really 3 years of exposure, kind of 4, 5. So there is a very high danger of skin cancer among all of us. Honestly, you don't have to be 18. We've lost children of 10, 11 to cancers. As I speak, there is one in the Cancer Institute who is 11. And you know, so the cancers are so high. 80% of people with albinism in Uganda die because of skin cancer. Yet it is very preventable. But you and me, viewers today, please know that every child, every person with albinism is very susceptible to skin cancer. Then the other challenge that we have, let me look at how do we prevent skin cancer. The best is to run from the sun. But you could say, are you going to only be indoors? The answer is no. Because, I mean, scientists say we actually need the sun. So morning hours up to maybe 9, 10, these days it's really hot, is fair enough. Anything between midday and 3 p.m., if you had, I want to call it the golden rule, please be indoors. Midday to 3 p.m., be indoors by all means. And then the evening after 4, you know, the sun rays have, you know, come down, the sun is setting. How do we manage life? One, I can dress really well, respect for our Muslim community. If there was a way we could all be covered up, that's the best. But also, we use wide-brimmed hats, you know, like our president. Yes, because it covers the ears. Some of us, it's not just fashion, but it's also protection that, you know, your ears are covered and your neck is covered, because every part that we expose is the first target for the cancer. When we don't have, or when we have all the protection done, or you don't have, 2, we have a cream, a sunscreen, that kind of soothes or protects you from the harmful rays. I look at ladies who bleach and I'm like, I wish you knew the power of that pigment in your skin, you know? So we need to be happy, and at times we don't know our blessings. Even just that dark skin that you have is a blessing to you. So for us, we get it in a cream, very expensive on the market today. A tube of around 100 mils will go for 30 to 40,000 shillings in Uganda. Can you imagine how many? And guess what? That can take me a week. 100 mils only, because I really need to be protected. And that is when I'm using it only for the arms and maybe the face and all that, because, you know, it is very expensive. And it is not available, you know. You'll only get it in these up-end, you know, pharmacies or whatever. So the other challenge that is very health-related is our sight. Legally blind is the term that the UN has given for people with albinism, legally blind. This varies from individual, just as you know, yes, that we all have different eyesights and all this. But people with albinism are legally blind. Because of the involuntary movement of the eye, our focus is hard, you know. And even if I put on contact lenses, it is just a an aid, you know, to widen the numbers, to widen the figures. So that we ask to do a regular eye check so that they can measure and see the strength at which your eyesight is. So this affects us in many ways, because if my sight is not good, it may affect the way I learn for a child, for a learner with albinism. It may affect my daily life. Unfortunately, I think 2 years ago, we lost one of our very big advocates in Tanzania. He was run over by a car. He just didn't see the speeding car. And this is daily life that we go through. So because we have this very short-sightedness, our life is compromised in certain ways, especially for learners with albinism. You know, you're a child, you've just started school, and then the overarching stigma and discrimination, you know? So you may wonder, why is your skin this? For a child, they want to pinch, why are you different? And the child doesn't even know why they're different, you know? And the bullying in school.
Yes, yes,
you know?
yes. Because I wanted to look at that from the school's perspective. You know, children are very inquisitive, if it's the right word for me to use.
Sure.
And many of them, when they find persons with albinism, they want to know what really happened. And at times they will throw in jokes, because to them it's whatever they think they won't filter, they'll just put it out.
Sure.
And I can only imagine the kind of traumatic experience one may pass through at school, especially if they are the only person with such a situation. Well, with the magazine I'm holding here, I've got to realize you've been going to schools, you know, with this awareness and all. I don't know if you've got questions from these children, but what have been the most common questions from them? Because my question may not be the same as the child's question.
Absolutely.
When it comes to, one, the children who are not persons with albinism, what have been some of the questions they've always posed on your side?
Thank you so much, Joe. It's been interesting visiting schools, and we've gone from primary, secondary, where the few of us were in school, a majority anyway. Now, for the primary, it is quite unique. First of all, if the parent has not loved this child, their self-esteem is very low, that they are white in a sea of black people, you know? And they're asking them, of course, we teach them it is okay, they will call you this name, it is fine, but the role of the parent is to strengthen this child to speak and say, I am well, I am different, but I have everything. Now, the interesting bit was the secondary school, you know, teenagers and all that we go through. One of the big questions that was very interesting for me, we went to a secondary school and they're like, do people with albinism give birth? If they do, can they do normal birth? Do they even have their monthlies? You know, as teenagers, there are all this range of questions, and they are inquisitive to know this child is different. We see everything is for a woman, they have breasts and every other thing. But does that internal anatomy align with, you know, ours? So those questions, and it's very interesting when we engage them and say, hey, everything you are, I am. The only difference is the skin color.
Okay.
Yes, the only difference is the skin color. And we keep telling even the learners themselves, because I have a case of a child who was abandoned to, okay, not abandoned, but raised by a grandmother. And the grandmother really, for due respect, that whatever information she had would pass on. So they told her, you will disappear. So she grew up knowing one day I will disappear.
So that is what she is passing on to the next generation.
Thank you. That's what they told her, that you'll disappear. And this lady kept saying, I hope I don't disappear in the rain or in the forest or at night. Now you imagine a 6, 10-year-old being told you'll disappear. So you grow up knowing, oh my God, is this my time to go? Where am I going? A mind as young as that. So we really try to go in schools and dispel these myths and say, even if you touch them, one, it is not contagious, because some refuse to sit with us and feel like, how will I sit next to her? Maybe it's red eyes, you know, I'll get the red eye. So we tell them it is not contagious, it is genetic. Some of them, of course, secondary, they've learnt about genetics. So they begin, oh yeah, oh, then they begin telling you the stories. And you know, some of the interesting one is when you eat like vegetables.
Okay.
Can I see them through your throat?
Oh.
Can I see the vegetables go down? And I'm like, no, how your skin is, I can't see.
It's only the color that is a bit different. And also, Olive, something we've not mentioned, I want us to look back at eye management for the case of persons with albinism. How do you manage that issue to do with the sight and everything, especially if you're a person with albinism, or if I have a colleague and a relative who has it, how do I help them you know, deal with the eye problem?
Thank you very much. As albinism umbrella, we really can't work in isolation. This is a very huge kind of work that we do. So we partner with different people and organizations. So one, we all know today that really Mengo Hospital is the go-to for the eye. Anything about eye, please go to Mengo. Not to advertise or do everything, but really they have the state of the art for the eye. We have worked with them for the past, I think, 6 years, going to schools, training teachers, the parents. One care that they tell us to have is to have an annual visit for the eye checkup. Annual, because as children, as you grow, I didn't know, the eye also grows, you know. So what level of sight did you have at 6 years, maybe different at 8, and as we age, you and me know that our grandparents have a problem with the sight, some of them, you know. So we are advised to do an eye checkup every year. I wear contact lenses, but even then, I need to go and see, is the lens still as strong, or now it is weak, or as you age, what happens? So the eyesight needs a regular checkup. But two, in case you are watching us, and Mengo, yes, is in the central, but there is St. Benedict in Tororo, in Kitgum, I think it is St. Joseph. Those are specialized eye care units that you can visit. Two, for me, walking on the streets of Mbale or wherever, because my sight is bad, I need to have sunglasses, you know, to just reduce the light intensity. Many people do it for swag and being on form and all this, but for us, it is protection. I'm sure you've seen some of us walk and we are almost closing our eyes, you know, on the streets, and someone is squinting, trying to focus and see. All we are saying is there is too much light. With the sunglasses, then somebody can be able to, you know, walk quite easily, interact quite easily. You have your hat, you have your sunglasses, you have the long-sleeved garments, you would be good to go.
And then I also want to know, persons with albinism considered as persons with disability?
Good.
Or it's not that way?
I really want to address the issue of disability and also to thank our government. As a nation, we have really moved strong in the disability, you know, awareness. If I'm to look at the disability movement on the continent of Africa, Uganda has a place in the first 10 or even first 5, so to speak. Albinism was recently included as in the Person with Disability Act 2020. Why? Because today disability has evolved. I'll say that back then we used to look at disability as a medical challenge, you know. Somebody's deaf, they're like, oh yeah, we need to fix that. Somebody is partially blind or has a visual impairment, like, oh, go to hospital. You have a physical challenge with your limbs, you know, looking at it as a medical challenge. Today, there was also the social bit, oh, sorry, I think something happened bad, then I give a token here and there. Today we are looking at a human rights-based approach, where it is not just medical, social, but look at a person in their full capacity and say you are well able to attain everything. So disability, in brief, I can say is any limitation you have to interact with your environment. So how does albinism then become a disability? One, because I have a limitation of sight, I may not be, for instance, if I got a job in the army, I can't stand at the parade for 2 hours and then I'm fine. Yet everybody else can, Jerome can and whoever, you know, because I can be physically fit and everything, but because I have a challenge of the skin, I may not sit, rather I may not stand at the parade. So that alone is a limitation, and I don't want to use the word impairment. It's a limitation to my interaction with the environment. And because I've also talked about the sight, the skin, that qualifies us to be persons with albinism. I know fellow people with albinism have argued, I am not disabled, I can walk, I can see, I can do everything. But it's beyond the kind of disability that we physically see. Today, disability has been extended to mental wellness, you know, people with intellectual disabilities. Did you know that epilepsy today is a disability? Little persons or people with dwarfism, you know, are also people with disabilities. Because you look at a little person, they may not be able to maybe switch on a light. Averagely, rooms, the lights are, you know, at a certain level. So that limitation alone qualifies them to be people with disabilities. So the revised People with Disability Act today includes albinism, little persons, epilepsy, people with spina bifida. You know, there are those now, can I call them uni-disabilities from the normal...
For special needs kind of people.
Exactly. That we just need a change in the environment and then we'll be able to interact with the rest of the population. Well,
of course, our interaction does continue immediately after the break. Now, we are going to look at what society needs to do to help and accommodate persons with albinism. What should we do as individuals? Then on the health perspective, teachers, parents, all of that. It's a conversation that we are going to be having immediately after the break, inclusive of which, looking at the World Day of Albinism, or what you could call the Albinism Awareness Day that will be celebrated next week on the 13th. So we need to also look at that and what aim is behind the day being designated, and then also looking at the theme of this year's celebrations, and then what you as a viewer or a concerned citizen can do to be part of that day's celebrations. For now, we take a short commercial break. We'll be right back with GMU Extra.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from just the Nile.
We are the same people, and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Ham Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that.
Okay.
The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government. It is designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala, we have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Well, I'm still here with Olive Namtebi, who's the Executive Director of the Albinism Umbrella. Our conversation is still looking at the Albinism Awareness Day. That will be on the 13th of June 2024. Well, the conversation is rotating around how we can put an end to stereotyping, how we can live together with persons with albinism, and also how we can help them go through this life thing together. Because at the end of it all, you get to realize that at times it gets dark. In the times, we are opening up conversations for mental health and depression, but you also realize that stereotyping has led to many people to get into depression because of carrying the burden of insecurities that society finds unwelcome to them. So as we continue to have this conversation, Olive, when you look at what society needs to do, you know, so that we can make life better and easier for the persons with albinism to be with us and then also feel like they are part of us and welcome in society. What should we do? Let's look at the different players or different stakeholders. It can, from the education perspective, health,
the community,
parents, and then the community in general.
Thank you so much, Jerome. Indeed, you and me have something to do. I just gave the example of someone being knocked down. Can you imagine? I want to make it as basic as every viewer today, you have a role. Every viewer today. I imagine you didn't know what albinism is. Today you do. So be a change agent, you know, just at that level. And if you look at a neighbor with albinism, I've seen parents who have children with albinism, and it's like top-notch secret. And now this is a child growing up. If you've eavesdropped or you've seen her being taken for immunization, I mean, just be friendly to this person and say, it's okay. It's not your fault, because some mothers have been so withdrawn, they are so depressed, and they're like this burden called albinism. Guess what? I tell people in the disability movement, I think we're the easiest to manage. Give me a cream, give me hearts, help me with the visual aids, we're good to go, you know? So at society level, end the stigma and discrimination. One, albinism is not contagious. I've said it is genetic, very genetic. Two, health workers. And really I want to address our health workers. We really appreciate the work you do. But and as an organization, we really want to go to the learning institutions, especially midwives, assuming the ideal that a woman goes to hospital to give birth. The first contact is a nurse who will see this baby come out. If at that point you helped this woman and say, hey, ma'am, your child looks different, but he's okay. Your husband and you have this gene, and this child is okay, please love them. You know, to the contrary, they begin stigma right there. They yell, what have you brought on earth? The whole world is in disarray, you know? And we're saying that is an opportunity that we can change the narrative. You know, some midwives have told mothers, oh, you know what, your child is a premature, cover them, and a fully grown baby, 9 months or whatever, is covered as a premature. And, you know, before you know it, you're like, but this child is responding well. But imagine a first-time mother who has been told that, you know, so they've never had a baby. There is a lot of awareness that we want. On our own, we cannot do it. You, the health workers, can. in those learning institutions, what are they? The nursing schools, I'm sure they learn about this, but these are special requests that we want to make. But really, if you are helping a lady deliver their child, and they are a different child, these are basics that you should give. Two, at that level of a child coming on planet Earth, but when we are unwell and we've come for health services, you know, it's interesting that when we go to these places, many of them, they're like, go to the skin doctor. Hey, I can suffer from malaria, toothache, every other thing.
And then that clearly shows that some doctors are also stereotyping at the end of the day.
Exactly. And then I'm like, I can't pierce your skin. Wait a minute. It is just the skin color. Are you sure? Can I inject
So I
you?
think they're also scared about dealing with some of the persons.
Exactly. You know, and we're saying, for all we know, you've done all the biology and the anatomy and everything.
This is something you should be well aware of.
You should be well aware, but unfortunately they don't. And some of the shocking things, for information, we believe that at district level, the custodian of health information is the district health officer. Unfortunately, no. Some of them are the very agents of stigma. Very unfortunate. So we are asking, one, for government, for you leaders, that please accept us, because we can't change. We are who we are, gifted by nature, if we can call it that. So we call upon our leaders that if we are in a meeting, we've seen children being chased from class. Why? A story is told of one of the tribes in this country that when you meet someone with albinism, it's bad omen. You're supposed to go back home, slaughter a cow, cleanse, and do you know all those things. Lo and behold, this child is in class. So the teacher is in face-to-face with this thing, quote unquote. You know? So it's like, who brought this thing in class? Oops.
You've already killed the momentum and
You've killed the
confidence
momentum,
of this
but this is a child who has a right to education. So we are telling teachers, you know, you are teachers, learning never stops. Please acquaint yourself with some of these. The myths have been there, but we are saying enough. Enough, be the change agent. And then we've been to places and say, you know, we don't see, we need to draw closer, rather to be at the front seat. But the front seat can be 2 meters from the chalkboard. And 2 meters is a long distance for me.
I know.
You know? So all we are saying, please work with the learners. Because my sight may be different from the next. Ask them, are you able to see this? And yeah, we thank God for our teachers, but some of them write very tiny letters, you know? So allow me to either walk to the chalkboard and let children not, you know, bully me and say, hey, come off. It's a minute or even less that I go and see a certain figure and I write on my board. Or can I be allowed to use a magnifying glass? Can I be allowed? And as, of course, we advance in education, things become a little easier. But even as adolescents, I have a colleague actually at YMCA who is just enrolled, but people don't want to sit with her. And I'm like, at that level, people don't know what albinism is, you know. Sitting with her means nothing. She's another human being. So learning institutions, please, 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 we also want to access that education.
Okay. And then, you know, I also wanted to share with you something that we've been discussing before we returned after the break. When you look at individuals who have patches of or slight albinism patches on their bodies, are they identified as albinos, exactly what is on screen? Those types of people.
Yes, yes. Now, those people who have patches, that condition is called vitiligo or vitiligo, whichever you pronounce it.
Oh.
So those patches are again parts of the skin that do not have pigment. And I have seen, it also varies from individual to individual, because some it continues to wear off, if I can call it. In Uganda, or being a Muganda, many have said abalongo bamocha, literally translated burnt by twins. No, twins don't burn, and then and for the dermatologist and the skin specialist, that skin has every quality with the other part of the skin. It's not like it is thin, like a burn, you know. When you have been burnt, your skin is torn, like the pigment is gone, you know. That is not the case with vitiligo. And they too can suffer from the cancers because that part does not have melanin.
Oh, so that means the sunscreen is also highly...
We share. We share the sunscreens with them. So vitiligo is another related condition with albinism. And they also face their stigma, a lot of it. So in our awareness, we actually do it together that if a person has vitiligo, if a person has albinism, please, they are fully human. And unfortunately, fortunate for them, they have some patches, some black. At times, I have heard, I can't verify, that there are some herbs that can bring back the skin coloring for the people with vitiligo. I have heard. I don't know, I can't verify, not researched, but I have heard some people say when you apply a certain herb, that part, maybe when it is small, but if it's really the entire body, on the extreme, I've seen people with vitiligo turn completely into albinism, you know?
Okay. Now let's look at, fast forward, the International Albinism Awareness Day. This year, 2024, what are we looking at? And what is our theme this year? And then usually, when such days are being commemorated or are being, you know, celebrated, if I'm to put it in that way, there are lots of things that we look at from the international perspective and then from the local perspective in terms of the objectives of celebrating such days. And I'll start with this year's 2024. What is the theme and what is the movement for this year?
Great. So this year marks a decade of celebrating International Albinism Awareness Day.
Okay.
We began in 2015 when the UN, no, 2014 was the decision, then 2015 was the first celebration of International Awareness Day. Each year has a theme. So this year's theme is a decade of collective awareness. So we have moved progressively and collectively we can achieve more. So we are looking again at, can we take stock of what we have done in the decade? We have things to celebrate today. At the international level, World Health Organization has, or UN basically, has recognized albinism. At the African organization, African Union, we even have a protocol on disability. We have a plan of action on persons with albinism on the African continent, because at African Union, they deemed it fit. The challenges that we have, especially ritual sacrifice, is more prevalent on the continent than other parts of the country. And looking at nationally, the government of Uganda has endorsed a national action plan for persons with albinism, you know? And this looks at awareness as the #1 reason that we need to do, because all these other things of health, education, society, until people are aware that we are fully human, we can do everything, then we'll not do. So this year, we are going to be in Tororo district. We thank Tororo for allowing to host us, and we've been doing this across different regions. We're in the north, we've been in the central, we're in Fort Portal, we've been to Mbale. So we are going to Tororo. And we also choose these districts selectively. One, are there people with albinism? Are we welcomed? What are the myths that we are going to deal with? You know, there's some places that are so prevalent and certain myths are very strong that people need even to just see 10 people with albinism, maybe adult people with albinism, that you would be like, oh, I've never seen more than one, you know? Are they really there? So we are coming to Tororo with this theme. What we intend to do, of course, we are creating awareness. This is the whole month. Really, we call it the Albinism Month. Creating awareness on radio, on TV. We want to have spots in Uganda as we go along to do stopovers and just talk to the community about what albinism is. Interact, ask questions. You know, we will be there with many of us on a team. And on that day, we intend to really interact in a sports game. Yes, because we are telling you, we've done the blood donations, you know. There are myths that, do we even have red blood? Nakasero Blood Bank and Red Cross and all other people have taken our blood. And I'm not saying that you should get scared. Oh my God, you had a blood transfusion. Blood is blood. Every other component of a human being, we are 100% okay. So we donate blood. This year round, we want to engage in sports. Don't think we are these weaklings who, just want to be in a shelter and do this. So we are intentional in engaging the community on what we want them to see us to be. So on that day, we will have, of course, our eye clinic. We hope to have a legal clinic, because many of us have, because of ignorance, either our rights have been violated, but we can also violate laws unknowingly, because information to us may not come as to others. Yes, we are poor, but we can be isolated and we are taken away from, the general discussion. So we really want to give as much information as possible. We are calling on government, the district leadership, that you see, hey, we have a constituency that we need to take care of. So Toro, here we come on 13th June, and there are more things to happen. Even after June 13th, I really believe there is more yet to come.
Well, thank you very much, Olive, for your time and giving us this insightful conversation.
Thank you very much.
And to you, our dear viewer, when you look at albinism, which is highly characterized by lack of melanin, it does come with rich challenges and opportunities, of which we have to explore, grow with it, and then also try to understand and learn so that we create an inclusive environment for each one of us. And now my guest this morning is the Executive Director of Albinism Umbrella, and to them, it is just beyond the skin. And for some directions, they are located at Kanyanya Gayaza Road. You can info at albinismumbrella.org. Then also on the X app, formerly Twitter, Albinism Umbrella, and then Facebook as well. Then the website is www.albinismumbrella.org. If you want to have more details to get to understand how to deal with the persons with albinism, and how you can also be part of a journey to create awareness and also have an environment that is inclusive to all. Next week on the 13th in Tororo District is where the International Awareness Day for Albinism will be celebrated. So that means 10 years down the road, or a decade worth of memories of celebrating persons with albinism, and also making sure that we end the stigma and stereotyping in one way or the other, so that we can create an environment free for all. And that is it for our Good Morning Uganda Extra this morning. I'll be back with the team Good Morning Uganda tomorrow on Wednesday. For now, have a good day and good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso, every Wednesday live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Joko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you just